Okay, we need to talk about Pokopia. Because despite the fact that Nintendo gave us multiple trailers, an entire direct, and an hour-long gameplay showcase all about Pokopia, it turns out they massively undersold what Pokopia actually is. As this game is so much more than they promised it to be in the best possible way. And honestly, since release day, I have not been able to put this game down. You see, when we got the first trailer for Pokopia, I just thought this was a cute Pokemon spin-off, and I never would have expected that this would turn into possibly one of my favorite cozy games of all time, with the potential of even overtaking Animal Crossing New Horizons, as this does so many things that I wish Animal Crossing had done. You see, Pokopia has somehow managed to mash together some of the biggest features from games like Animal Crossing and Minecraft into something that just works all together. And even just 5 days after the release of Pokopia, the things people have done in this game is absolutely wild. And despite the fact that there are a ton of life and farming sims already out there, Pokopia's done an awful lot to make sure it stands out above the rest. And even though this does have mechanics that we've seen in other games, with you rebuilding a town from scratch and helping out each of the Pokemon with their requests, they've taken all these different cozy gaming aspects, turned them into their own, and tied them together with a wonderful story. A story which, despite its whimsy, still manages to cover topics like loss, conservation, and even carrying on when all hope may seem to be gone. And it's this story which makes what is actually an absolutely massive game somehow not feel all that overwhelming. And on top of all of this, the actual gameplay loop is unbelievably Moorish. You see, the game begins with a tiny little Ditto, who, after missing its trainer, decides to transform into it and explore the world. But you see, this is a world unlike any Pokemon game we've seen so far, as all there is, as far as the eye can see, is just the remains of a town, with no humans or Pokemon in sight. That is until you come across a strange Tangrowth, who until now believed that they were the last Pokemon alive. And after some reminiscing about the past, they decide to team up and try and fix the town, all in the hopes of bringing the Pokemon and maybe even the people back to the town once again. And hopefully maybe even piece together what happened that caused everyone to disappear. And this is the story that underpins everything that you do in Pokopia. Now, it's safe to say the challenge of fixing this town is not going to be an easy one, because not only is it completely derelict, with only the remains of buildings and paths to be seen, but it's also dry and barren. Thankfully though, you stumble across a Squirtle who teaches you a water move so you can get to work watering the ground and bringing a little bit of life back to the area. And in doing this, you'll accidentally discover your very first habitat. Now, this is just a collection of plants and sometimes even items that will attract certain Pokemon. And when you see the area rustling, that's when you know a new Pokemon friend is ready to be discovered. Now, the fun in this was not only seeing which Pokemon would appear in the habitat, because a lot of the habitats can have any number of Pokemon appear in them, and sometimes you can even get rare Pokemon spawns. But truly the best part was actually finding out the personality of each of the Pokemon. You see, because you're a Ditto, you are able to speak the Pokemon language, which means that the Pokemon actually talk themselves. And I honestly was not prepared for the game to have this fantastic writing, as you not only get to know the Pokemon just by talking to them, but they'll often have wacky quests for you to go on as well that helps you get to know them a little bit better. And thanks to Pokopia, I can now honestly say I am a Magikarp stan. But the thing that took me by surprise the most is that this does something Animal Crossing failed to do, where each and every character actually feels unique. And I think this is especially impressive considering there are over 300 Pokemon in the Pokedex, each with their own personalities. And it's made me fall in love with Pokemon I never even gave a second glance to in any of the other games. Now, these Pokemon that you get from the habitats don't just liven up the place, but they also massively help in your quest to fix the town, as some of the Pokemon you encounter will teach you moves. Like for example, Bulbasaur will teach you leafage, so you can spawn grass wherever you want to help build more habitats. Hitmonchan will teach you Rock Smash, so you can uncover brand new areas and effectively terraform. Drillbur will teach you how to plow, so you can learn how to farm. And that's not all. Some of the Pokemon will also have really useful abilities. You see, in Pokopia, you don't have a ton of machines doing things for you. Instead, it's the Pokemon. So if you want to change your wooden logs into lumber to do some crafting, then you need to use a Pokemon like Scyther to do that for you. Pokemon like Bulbasaur will allow your crops to grow faster if you bring them along with you when you're planting things. And you'll even be able to elicit the help of certain Pokemon when it comes to making things like iron ore. And all of these will be incredibly useful when it comes to fixing and decorating your town. Now, I'll be the first to say I am not big on decorating. But in Pokopia, not only did the decorating have a purpose, sometimes it was even required to help with the main storyline. And actually, I wound up really enjoying it, which kind of surprised me. Now, the whole purpose of decorating in Pokopia is effectively trying to raise what they call the environment level. And all this really is a way to score your town, similar to the likes of Animal Crossing. And this is pretty important as this is what ties into the main storyline, but will also help you unlock a ton of brand new items as you level up as well. Now, one big way you can increase the environment level is to make more habitats, but another way is to make sure the Pokemon around you are happy. Now, you can ask them straight up what they would like in order to make them happier, and they'll often tell you an item which they'd love to have, which would really help them out. But another way to make them happy is to actually give them a home. You see, I have the creative juices of a raisin, but this game kind of takes that into account and helps you along. Because even though you can, much like in Minecraft, build a house from the ground up from scratch all yourself, if you're not so creatively inclined, the game really helps you out by giving you some pre-built homes that you can put around the town as well. And for these ones, all you really need to do is collect the resources and bring along the right Pokemon, and then they'll make it for you. Now, this is a good time to mention that Pokopia is actually based on in real life time. And this is really one of the main aspects that you're actually going to notice that, as buildings actually take real life time to finish. With small buildings taking 15 minutes, medium buildings taking an hour, and the biggest stuff will take till the next day for it to be completed. But I love the fact that this game gave us the option to either make stuff ourselves or just go for something pre-built to be easier. Now, even though my town is okay and I have put in a fair amount of time into it, I actually think the best way to show the potential of Pokopia is to have a look at the Dev's Island. Now, I'll put on the screen the code to go visit it yourself, but I think this truly shows what can be done if you spend enough time and have enough creativity in the game, because this looks absolutely incredible. And one thing that does crack me up is if you make a home for the Pokemon yourself, it kind of defaults to saying that 4 Pokemon can live in there, kind of regardless of the size. So if you wanted to, you could really become a scammy landlord in Pokopia. Another big way to raise the environment level is to complete challenges, which is also the same way you make money in Pokopia. You see, because the humans have left, so too has capitalism. So you'll find yourself in the shocking position of not actually being in a ton of debt to begin this game. But because there's no store for you to sell your items at, instead you'll complete these challenges, which will give you money as a reward. And essentially all these challenges are just you running around playing the game, and you'll naturally just do a lot of these. But sometimes when I didn't feel like doing the main storyline quests, I'd have a look at the challenges, see which ones I'm close to finishing, and kind of go after them. You can then use the money that you've earned in the PC shop to buy items, recipes, or even hints for habitats that would be really difficult to find by yourself. And I personally love the fact that they changed the focus of this life sim, as so many life sims just become a grind for money. But instead, in Pokopia, this was fully focused on the story, and your time will be spent repairing the town and making Pokemon happy. The other thing you're going to spend a lot of time doing in Pokopia is exploring. And once again, this just has a purpose and makes it feel so worthwhile. You see, a lot of the story that you're going to uncover throughout the game isn't actually going to be through your conversations with other Pokemon. Instead, it's going to be in the things that you find when you explore. And this can be anything from pictures to newspaper clippings, each of which will give you a little hint as to what was going on in the world before everyone disappeared. And I'm going to be honest, I think the story aspect of this game is the thing I underestimated the most. As it turns out, in all of the trailers and even the 1 hour long treehouse demo we got for Pokopia, they had completely avoided talking or showing basically anything to do with the story whatsoever. And it turns out that's because they didn't want to spoil it. And I love the fact that this story is enhanced so much more if you explore outside of doing the main story. Exploring is also a great way to find way more customization items. You might have noticed that there wasn't a huge amount of options when it came to the character creation at the very beginning, and that's because you'll need to explore to unlock more hairstyles and more clothing options. And so far, my favorite customization items I've found are based on well-known Pokemon characters. Like, I have a freaking Nurse Joy outfit. Look how cute I am. And I think to me, that's what makes Pokopia special, is that it rewards absolutely every single mechanic it throws at you. But do you want to know the really wild part about Pokopia? It is absolutely massive. You see, this town is but a tiny fraction of the world of Pokopia. Because not only is there more than one town to explore, there's also multiple different biomes, and even 20 hours in, I haven't seen a large majority of them. And the crazy part is, each of these biomes that you go and explore not only have their own main storylines to them, they also have their own Pokemon that can spawn in each of them. They each have their own resources, new recipes for you to find, and even brand new mechanics to uncover all together. And much like the main area which you've explored, all of these areas are just as barren and as derelict as the first one you encountered. So you'll need to do a lot of tidying and a lot of fixing to bring them back up to scratch. And in order to unlock each of these biomes, you'll need to have a certain amount of Pokemon registered in your Pokedex. So all of the main gameplay loops tie into one another. And the best part is, because you know you're going to be rewarded for doing it, you can't help but explore every single inch of each of these different areas the game throws at you. And I think a large part of the joy of Pokopia is in being distracted. You might set off to do one of the main storyline quests, but on the way you'll either see a Pokemon spawn in a new habitat, or you might spot an item way off in the distance that you want to try and go and get. And before you know it, it's been hours and you've not progressed the main storyline whatsoever, but you've had a blast doing it. But once again, that's not all this game has to offer. There's also this concept called Dream Islands. Now, this gives you the ability to essentially use plushies to fly to brand new islands. If you've played Animal Crossing, this is very similar to Cap'n Islands, because these islands are just a little bit special, as they can be very different to the island you're currently on. And these islands very much reward exploring. They have their own secrets inside of them, which again, I don't want to spoil. And these are really handy for going and getting a bunch of resources without actually tearing your own space apart to get them. You also might find yourself destroying entire civilizations in these dream addresses, because this will be the first time that you see a lot of building materials. So every single house that I saw, I destroyed brick by brick so I could bring every single resource back to my own town and use them. Also, I just want to say the plushies which you use to go to these dream islands are absolutely adorable, and I'm going to try and collect each and every one of them. But once again, despite there being so much to do with the decorating, the main storyline quests, the requests from Pokemon, the dream islands, and even multiplayer, I always had a direction and something that I could do. But it's the story that's keeping me hooked, and it's the reason why I want to keep on playing and keep on learning more about this world that is completely different to anything we've seen in Pokemon before. Now, whilst I am loving my time with this game, it is definitely not perfect, and one of my biggest nitpicks is the storage. Now, you'll know if you are a life or farming sim enjoyer that storage is going to be something that you're battling with all the time. And sadly, this is my main struggle point for Pokopia. Now, there are bag upgrades you can buy at the shop and the ability to get bigger storage boxes as you progress, but it is really hard to keep track of what I've got in each of my boxes. And I'm not a very organized person, and it's most definitely showing when I lose resources all the time. Where it gets a little bit more annoying though is when you have resources spread across biomes. This is one of the only times that you get a full-blown loading scene, and even though you can fast travel between them, it does take a while to get resources between each of the different biomes. I think this could be fixed if they did something where you had universal storage, so you can access the storage across every single one of your boxes, no matter which box you're in. I know Dragon Quest Builders 2 effectively had unlimited storage, so never really had this issue. And I am aware that this could largely be fixed by me being more organized, but I've played a lot of life and farming sims, and so far that hasn't happened, so you know. The terraforming aspect of things can be a little bit finicky at times, but actually I found the solution to this is to just use mouse mode. This gives you a cursor instead and makes it so much easier to pick exactly where you want blocks to go or which blocks you want destroyed. And I think this might be one of the first fantastic uses of mouse mode. It was really well thought out. The controls for mouse mode are great. So if you're big into building, definitely try it out. I think the best part about playing Pokopia right now though, is the knowledge that I think I've only just scratched the surface of what this game has to offer. And I think it's already incredibly clear that a lot of time and care has gone into this game. Because not only are there a ton of features to explore, but they're each so detailed, with each Pokemon having their own personality, and there's been so many different times where the dialogue has made notes to Pokedex entries, or have made very funny jokes to do with the Evolution series, or even just saying things that a lot of us fans have been thinking. I was also not expecting literally all of the items that you can place in your home to be interactable as well. You can also see the care and attention when it comes to quality of life features. Every single time I come up to something in the game that I feel is a little inconvenient, I find that there's a way to fix that. Like, for example, you can bulk craft without waiting 4 years for an update. The game also realizes that you're going to spend a lot of time trying to find certain Pokemon since they are so important. So they've given you multiple ways in which you can find these Pokemon instantly, the easiest of which being using honey at their habitat, and they will appear straight away. You can also fast travel between any of your houses, even if they're in different biomes. Another fantastic quality of life item is the security camera that allows you to not only watch over certain habitats that may not be all that close to your home, but it will also notify you if a new Pokemon has appeared there. There's also what they call a 3D printer, which is such a cool item to have in the game. And essentially how this works is you can take a picture of an object and use the 3D printer to make it using resources. And the cool part is you can do this either in your own game, or you can go over to a friend's island and copy any of their items that you might not have yet. Now, Pokopia, as I said earlier, is a game that's based on in real life time. However, it doesn't really feel like it as much as the likes of Animal Crossing. If you remember back to the early days of your Animal Crossing playthrough, you'd quite often hit a point where you feel like you haven't got much left to do, and you kind of need to wait until the next day for anything to happen. But Pokopia doesn't really rely on in real life time the same way as Animal Crossing does. Because even though some of the buildings may take a day to finish, or you may find that you can only do some things once per day, you'll have so many quests on the go at once that you can just pick something else to do while that happens. And I have never found myself having nothing to do in Pokopia. So if you're someone who likes to play games for hours on end, Pokopia is still the game for you. That being said, there are plenty of dailies for you to do in Pokopia if you're someone who likes that sort of thing. So this is a game that truly caters to all types of cozy gamers. And the crazy part is, this is a game that I think is only gonna get better from here. Now, we have just had our first in-game event, which might give us a little bit of a taste as to what's to come in the future. The one running at the moment is called More Spores for Hoppip. And after you find Hoppip running around your Pokemon Center, you'll be tasked with the job of finding his spores, which you can exchange for different items. And these can be found by heading off to any Dream Island during the event. This event does not just come with items though, it also comes with a whole Hoppip line of Pokemon. And don't worry if you haven't got the game just yet, you'll actually be able to access everything by going to a friend's island who's already done the event, taking pictures of everything, and using your 3D printer to make them. Through some time traveling, we also know there'll be another event coming sometime in April as well. And if they continue to bring in new items and new Pokemon as well, the scope of this game is just getting bigger by the second. So overall, I've been having an absolute blast playing Pokopia. And at a time where I feel like there's been a lot of cozy games that haven't lived up to expectations, I am so unbelievably happy that this one has exceeded everything I thought it was going to be. And most importantly, this has been a lot of fun to play. I also think that even if you're someone who hasn't played a Pokemon game ever before, but you are a cozy game lover, then I think Pokopia might still be for you, as the mechanics themselves are really solid, and all you really need to know about the Pokemon is that they look really heckin' cute. And even though this is just my first impressions, because this is obviously a very long game and I'm only 20 hours into it, so far I have been so impressed with what I've played. But I do think there is one big question that I can't answer yet, and that is, does this game have the same longevity as something like Animal Crossing New Horizons does? Or will I see myself playing this game as much as I did that? And for that, I don't really know. I don't think I'll have any trouble finding different areas to decorate, as this map is absolutely huge. But I do wonder how much there will be to do once you've found every single Pokemon. It'll also depend on how long they carry on these in-game events for, and how good they actually wind up being. But it's a game I think we're going to get a lot of hours out of. But I do want to say one thing. The last time I felt like this about a game was when I logged into Animal Crossing New Horizons for the very first time. And after all this time, I finally found a game that makes me feel like that one did. And it is Pokopia. And if you're someone debating buying a Switch 2 for Pokopia, I have a review of the console right here that you should check out before you make that purchase.